Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Johnson, and today I'll be walking you through my practicum experience as a full-time technical author with Peterbilt Motors Company. Over the course of this presentation, my goal is to walk you through some background information about myself and Peterbilt, how I got hired, my role and responsibilities as a technical author, two very special projects I had the opportunity to work on for my practicum, some of the main challenges I faced as a new career professional, how the UNT techcomm department prepared me for my job, and some key takeaways from my experience that might help you prepare for your own practicum. Sound exciting? Let's dig in! This first section of my presentation will walk you through my background, relevant information about Peterbilt and my department, and the process I followed to get hired as a full-time technical author. I received my bachelor's in English with a concentration in creative writing from the University of North Texas back in the fall of 2022. During the course of my undergraduate experience, I went from not knowing what technical writing was to pursuing a certificate and then a minor, and then finally applying for my master's in professional and technical communication. TechComm is the perfect amalgamation of all of my greatest passions: clear and precise language, document and content design, and effective editing. Peterbilt Motors Company has long reigned as America's premium quality, medium, and heavy-duty truck manufacturer. We are a subsidiary of PACCAR, which is recognized as both a global leader in truck manufacturing and a Fortune 500 company, with tens of subsidiaries including Kenworth and DAF. Peterbilt is headquartered in Denton, Texas, and we have two locations just 15 minutes away from both each other and the UNT campus. The first is our production plant, where we build the trucks, and the second is our division office, where my team, Technical Publications, works. TechPubs is part of the customer service portion of truck after-sales. We develop and publish technical materials like bulletins and manuals. These materials are required for trucks to be legally allowed on the roads. I originally saw the job posting through Dr. Kim Campbell's LinkedIn profile while I was looking for internships. The job description mentioned topic-based authoring, data, technical proficiency, and many other skills that caught my eye. I sent an application through their automated system, but I also reached out to the hiring manager through a separate email. The hiring process at Peterbilt was pretty standard. After I received the first response to my email, I went through 2 rounds of in-person interviews. The process took somewhere around 2 months, and the company made a fantastic first impression. From the moment I stepped in the office, I felt welcome. The culture and work atmosphere were 2 of the main reasons I returned for the second interview, but together they became one of the deciding factors when I accepted their offer. The second section of my presentation will walk you through a summary of my experience. I'll explain my role as a technical author and 2 of my top projects. As Peterbilt's sole in-house technical author, I'm in charge of writing content for our operator manuals and, occasionally, our service manuals. A typical day for me involves communicating with various subject matter experts, or SMEs, within PACCAR, Peterbilt, Kenworth, and DAF to research for new content and legacy content updates. Then, I translate the technical language into plain English, author or revise the content, send the updates for approval, if required, and push it to our content management system. The Content Management System, or CMS, is how we currently manage and share content for reuse. We share this with our sister company, Kenworth. It uses Oxygen XML and data elements as its basis for authoring. I coordinate a lot with multiple teammates both in the manuals team and the broader TechPubs team at Peterbilt and Kenworth. Since I'm supporting the bulletins team in between major authoring projects, I'm also working more with warranty, service repair time, and PACCAR parts. I also work with our content strategy, or RMI team, to help with language and term definition and providing our technical editor with content for our technical author training. Now that you have an idea of my role and responsibilities, let's look at my projects. The first project I want to address is the biggest project I've attempted so far: the battery electric vehicle manual revision. This is the first project I've led independently outside of my training. Of course, that's not to say I'm doing this alone. Technical authorship requires a tremendous amount of interpersonal communication. It does mean, though, that the entirety of this project, from the authorship to the manual review and approvals, are my responsibility. Since this project is still in progress, I can't show you samples of my work. Instead, I'll show you the original manuals I'm revising. We'll start with this Meritor manual, which is one of 3 I'm managing. This manual was originally written by engineering in Microsoft Word, so I'm doing a fair amount of work to get them prepared for publication outside of the CMS. I've also written some new content, like a section on battery balancing and the differential lock. In addition, I wrote and updated our jacking and towing procedures respectively. With this Dana manual example, which is one of two I'm managing, you'll notice that the safety messages and overall style is a mess. I've applied Microsoft styles to these manuals in the newer revision to improve both usability and readability. I've authored similar topics in these manuals as well, and synthesized technical language from Dana bulletins and other materials to provide clear procedures to our operators in the field. During the collaborative review process, I've managed 5 different PDFs for both Peterbilt and Kenworth's battery electric vehicles. Managing collaborative reviews requires using Adobe to create a shared review and sending the PDFs to any SMEs necessary. Then, I coordinate permissions issues and make sure the correct people have access. I also send multiple reminders throughout the 2-week period to keep the review fresh in the SMEs' minds. Then, after the first 2-week review ends, I close the review. Then, I consolidate the comments and determine which ones need to be authored, which ones need further research, and which ones should be ignored. After that, the reviews will go out again. This was my very first project in the CMS. While I had authored legacy content updates before, I hadn't managed a bigger revision like this. Since several truck models are being released with LED headlamp options, I had the opportunity to work with content reuse between our heavy-duty and medium-duty trucks. This project was my first major foray into using data elements in the professional setting. Most of my work before this was uploading images or revising grammar or content mistakes. This time, I actually had the chance to dig into making safety messages and notes, referable content, cloning topics, and data maps, which is how we develop our targets for publication. During the authoring process, I communicated back and forth with our engineering and component design exterior lighting SMEs and made sure that the content reflected the updates required for the LED materials. I had to get early approval for some of these sections, so I made sure the SMEs approved before I put the content into our CMS. I then participated as an author rather than an organizer in this Kenworth-led collaborative review. This meant I watched over the sections that hadn't been previously approved and made any necessary edits requested. In this section, I'll run you through some brief reflections regarding my challenges, how UNT's TechComm department prepared me for this role, and a few key takeaways. I've come across 3 main challenges in this role. The first is time management. I'm a well-organized person, but this job goes through continual ups and downs. Some days are extremely busy between authoring, contacting SMEs, and meetings, and some days are extremely slow. Even if you do have good time management, there's very little you can do about this ebb and flow. I've learned to monitor my workload, be upfront about deadlines and my progression towards them, and stay on top of my responsibilities. You also need solid project organization skills. If you're not careful, you can very easily forget about a small detail that quickly turns into a major mess. For example, before I joined the department, an author assumed, without making a final confirmation, that all of our displays present a particular error the same type of way. This issue ended up being escalated to multiple different departments, so we'll have to send out new manuals once the revision is approved. Creating and following a standardized checklist that you can physically, not just mentally, check off, is paramount to your success as an author. The final challenge I've run into is learning on the job. I personally had very little knowledge about cars and trucks before I took this role. However, between my trainings and coordinating with SMEs, I've had to do a lot of personal research to learn what industry jargon and acronyms mean. I've learned more about how trucks are built, how different systems interact, and even how to discern between future iterations of a project not yet in production and what's currently in the field. The TechComm department here at UNT prepared me more than I could have ever guessed for this role. Between content strategies, which taught me how to analyze and strategize new and existing content, style and tech writing, which taught me how to write in plain language and choose the appropriate tone for content, and digital literacies, which taught me about data and single-source authoring, I've grown a tremendous amount as a technical communicator and as a professional. Here are 3 key takeaways from my experience that may benefit you if you pursue a job as a technical author. First, professional communication is vital to your success outside of academia. Whether you're looking into your first job as a technical author or transitioning into a new one, research the industry you're looking into and make sure you're prepared to learn about the material. If you don't enjoy learning about hundreds of myriad topics, or at least have some degree of interest in the field, your communications with SMEs and team members will suffer. Second, you also need to make sure you know your audience. Learn what language is acceptable, what they know of jargon, and their typical reading level, and then meet them where they're at. It doesn't matter how formal you are of a communicator. What matters is that your audience can understand your content. Finally, Consider your job as an opportunity to grow. As cliche as this may sound, if you don't love learning or working with the people in your field, technical authorship is not the role for you. The core of this job is the care that you put into your work. When you get thoughtless or lose your interest, you make mistakes and start assuming things like the author I mentioned earlier. To be successful, you want to have an open and excited mind about your opportunity to make a difference in the industry. Always remember, being a technical author is an incredible opportunity to push yourself and grow as a professional. We're at the end of my presentation now, but if you have any questions, comments, or just want to connect with me, feel free to follow me on TechWriter Rebecca or connect on LinkedIn. Thank you for watching and happy authoring.